A 145% import tariff, egg prices doubling, and the US losing key export markets, yet the nation's leader insists we're not losing anymore. But is that really the case? Tariffs, deficits, and fundamental misunderstandings of economics. In a recent interview, the 47th president once again claimed the US had been losing $1 trillion a year in trade with China, and that thanks to current tariffs, we're losing nothing now. Specifically, he has kept a 145% tariff on Chinese goods, so high that many experts consider it a form of economic blockade. However, economists argue that this reasoning is based on a fundamental misunderstanding. A trade deficit doesn't mean a country is losing money. It simply means it imports more than it exports. This happens when US consumers buy cheaper goods from abroad, like from China, due to lower production costs. Keeping tariffs high has driven up the prices of essential goods in the US. A recent report shows that food, fuel, and building materials have increased by 12% to 25% compared to pre-tariff levels. While consumers face higher costs, import-based businesses are forced to either raise prices or scale down operations. If a trade policy raises domestic prices without improving exports, then who exactly is winning? The political and diplomatic consequences of tariff strategy. High tariffs not only apply domestic pressure, they've also damaged US trade relations abroad. China is not the only country responding. Over the past 2 years, emerging economies such as Vietnam, Mexico, and India have actively reduced their reliance on US markets. A clear example. The import tariff on US soybeans into China has now climbed to 114.73%, up from 60% as trade tensions continue. Although China remains a major buyer, American farmers are shipping far fewer soybeans to China than they did in 2018. And it's not just agriculture. Sectors like food processing, electronics, and high-tech components have seen sharp declines in international orders. Many small and medium-sized businesses have scaled back, laid off workers, or shut down entirely. Is a policy designed to pressure adversaries actually causing the US to lose ground in the global supply chain? The domestic burden of tariffs and economic strain. One widely cited proposal is the plan to eliminate personal income tax by replacing it with revenue from tariffs. According to the president, we're collecting so much money from China that taxes for Americans could go down to almost zero. Yet financial analysts note that most of the cost from import tariffs doesn't come from foreign companies. It's passed on to US consumers through higher retail prices. In other words, tariffs are not money from China, but money from American wallets. Retirement savings among middle-income households have fallen more than 18% over the past year. At the same time, rising housing and grocery costs are forcing millions of families to adjust budgets, delay investments, or reduce insurance coverage. The agriculture sector hasn't been spared either. Farms in Iowa, Illinois, and Kansas report substantial losses due to lost export markets, while also facing increased costs for equipment and fertilizer driven by import taxes. Meanwhile, cash continues flowing toward multinational corporations with flexible supply chains and global reach. This raises a critical question. Who is really benefiting from the tariff policy? China's industrial power and strategic stability. As the US wrestles with inflation, lost partnerships, and declining global market share, China has maintained steady industrial growth. Today, the country accounts for roughly 35% of global manufacturing output, compared to just under 12% for the US. Another key advantage for China in this standoff is political continuity. With leadership that doesn't change every few years, China can plan long-term without election-related disruptions. In contrast, the US faces ongoing political pressure from both major parties, with elections constantly approaching. While China expands its global presence through initiatives like the Belt and Road, many developing countries are turning to Beijing as a more stable and predictable economic partner. If trade tensions continue, global supply chains may restructure to become less reliant on the United States.